This quarterly meeting of the Texas State University System Board of Regents will now come to order. This meeting is authorized under the Government Code Chapter 551 regarding the Open Meetings Act. The agenda for this meeting was registered with the Secretary of State on May 10th. For the record, today's date is May 16, 2024, and the time is 12:31 p.m. A quorum of the board is present. For the record, Regent Scott is absent. All in attendance, please rise. Regent Amato, would you please deliver the invocation?
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Thank you for allowing us to be part of this great system. Help us to engage in meaningful discussions, allow us to grow culture and truth, and nurture the bond of our community. Please watch over our students, our schools, and help them to have a safe and prosperous life. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Regent Austin will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Regent Lee will lead us in the pledge to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. I want to begin by thanking President Danforth and the Texas State University staff for hosting us this week. We enjoyed our dinner with you and Beth last evening and are pleased to be back on campus. Before we get started with regular business today, I would like to invite Dr. Fred Farias, Chair of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, to the podium.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Tinsley and members. My name is Dr. Fred Farias, and I have the honor of serving as the Chair of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. Today I had the pleasure of touring this beautiful campus here at Texas State University, and I want to commend and thank all of you, Regents, for the hard work that you do for our students and parents of the great state of Texas for higher education. Thank you for the passion you have for higher education and the work that you do to improve our state, because higher education is the way to get great jobs, to improve our economy, and to improve the workforce and improve the state as we continue to grow. This afternoon, I'd like to share with you an update on the statewide strategic plan for education in the state of Texas, Building a Talent-Strong Texas. Slide 2, please. As we consider the direction of our Texas economy, it is clear our competitiveness and prosperity increasingly depends on a strong, educated workforce. As we consider this, Texas has the 8th largest economy in the world by GDP. Over the last year, Texas has led the entire nation in net new jobs created in the United States. And we continue to add record numbers of jobs because of our favorable business climate. Texas is the #1 state in the nation for job creation. Over the last decade, Texans earned more degrees, certificates, and credentials than any other time in history. We have outpaced every other state in the country in growing our undergraduate and graduate student enrollments. Yet, our long-term competitiveness depends not only on our ability to create the large quantity of jobs, but also on our ability to attract, retain, and create high-quality jobs. As we are all aware, the COVID-19 pandemic brought us disruptions to the workforce while changing expectations for our future. The Georgetown Center on Education and Workforce Project projects that by 2031, 63% of all jobs across Texas will require education beyond high school. To keep pace with the constant changes in our economy, we also need to upskill and reskill a large portion of our workforce to be able to respond to the needs of employers. Next slide, please. In response to these economic changes and to maintain our state's long-term competitiveness, the coordinating board, under the leadership of Commissioner Keller, adopted our state strategic plan, Building a Talent Strong Texas. This plan sets goals and targets to ensure that Texas can accelerate our global leadership and renewing our focus on students completing degrees and purposes and values. One of the key pillars of the plan is to bold goal to increase the educational attainment by 60% across the entire working age population to age 64. But we don't just want to have more credentials. We need to make sure students are earning credentials of value. So Texas became the first state in the union to condition our goals for awarding higher educational credentials on the value of those credentials in our labor market. As you can see here, the three primary goals laid out on the slide on the plan include increasing the attainment of post-secondary credentials for all working age Texans, focusing on post-secondary credentials of value, and strengthening our research, development, and innovation efforts. Across these goals, there is a renewed commitment of equity of opportunity. Texas is one of the youngest and most diverse states in the nation. So if we're not advancing our goals across all students, we cannot achieve them. The plan also elevates the importance of cross-sector collaboration. To reach these goals, we will need to work closely with public and private sector stakeholders to break down historic silos and engage educators, institutional leaders, policymakers, employers, and students in more meaningful ways. First, Building a Talent-Strong Texas widens the lens on who we're committed to serving through our colleges and universities. We still have the attainment goal of 60% of our young working adult ages 25 to 34, but our new plan raises the bar to include a goal of 60% of working age adults ages 35 through 64 with a degree, certificate, or other post-secondary credential by 2030. This group includes a large range of potential adult learners, like those who never had the opportunity to attend college after high school, or the nearly 4 million Texans with some college but no credential. We also realized our goals need to include mid-career employees who would benefit from additional skills to advance in their jobs to meet the changing demands of Texas employers. So we have expanded the types of credentials that are counted beyond just degrees and certificates to include other types of credentials with demonstrated value in the labor market. This could include industry-based certificates, stackable micro-credentials, credentials awarded through continuing and executive education, and other credentials that our institutions are awarding today and aren't currently capturing and being included. Regarding the first population, our 25 to 34-year-olds, in 2019, 48.2% held credentials. As of 2022, 50.4% held a credential. And as for our 35 to 64-year-olds, 47.7% held a credential in 2019 and 50.2% in 2022. This includes certification data that we were able to work with the Georgetown Center on Education and the workforce to incorporate. So by expanding our attainment goals to include all working age Texans and include more types of credentials, we will increase employment opportunities and incomes for individuals while strengthening the talent pipeline for employers and aligning skills with the jobs our economy demands. Next slide, please. Our next goal broadens the scope of credentials we're considering. Building a Talent-Strong Texas aims to include short-term and industry-recognized credentials. Most importantly, we're putting down a marker that all these credentials should be credentials of value, meaning that they translate into positive earnings for students and families. In other words, within 10 years of earning this credential, have more opportunities to increase their earnings potential been provided to that individual than if, let's say, they had gone straight into the workforce after high school. To calculate the statewide measure of completion of credentials of value, we are examining whether the typical student in the program, given typical cost and typical earnings of that credential, is earning more than a typical high school graduate within 10 years. If the answer is yes to that question, then at the credential level by program, it is considered a credential of value. For the purposes of this measure, and for graduates of that particular program, across all public institutions that are counted towards a statewide total. Think of this as the potential value that this credential can deliver given typical cost and typical earnings. It is also important to emphasize that our Building a Talent Strong Texas plan is market-driven. Texas is the first state in the nation to condition our goals for producing higher education credentials on earnings and to emphasize return on investment for students and employers. We've set a goal of producing 550,000 credentials of value by the year 2030. The good news is that the data that we captured from our public institutions shows that for the typical student across all certificates, associates, and bachelor's degree programs all meet this threshold, and therefore all the graduates count toward the statewide total of this goal. So for our baseline year of 2019, we had 347,669 completions of credentials of value. And as of 2022, we had 351,070 completions of credentials of value. As you can see, by the way, the coordinating board is full of data. We're data-driven, right? And we provide this information to all our institutions, public institutions in the state, to make good, sound decisions on higher education for our students and our families of our state. At the same time, it's important to note that this is going to look differently when we start to look at by institution and by student demographics. Another important component to the commitment of credentials of value concerns student debt. Our new goal is by 2030, 95% of Texas students should be able to complete their undergraduate credentials with no or manageable debt. That being debt which is someone could reasonably repay within 10 years, given typically earnings of that credential. Here we find that in 2019, our baseline is 94% of students having completed with no or manageable debt. As of 2022, we have reached this baseline with 96% of students completing with no or manageable debt. This is looking at students who graduated in 2017 and for whom we tracked wage data 5 years post-graduation. Again, it's most important to keep in mind that this is going to look different when we break it down by various types of credentials, various programs, by institutions, and by student demographics. At the end of the day, though, however, we're talking about 5,500 students graduating with high debt, only that amount, which is a number we can get our hands around and work closely with institutions to address. Students and their families need to know whether they take on more debt than they should. Keeping higher education affordable and debt low must be shared responsibility among policymakers, higher education institutions, and students themselves. And this new metric will continue to provide much clearer guidance. Next slide, please. Building a talent-strong Texas also recognizes our future competitiveness, which requires a much stronger research and development infrastructure to help us compete at the frontiers of knowledge, technology, and discovery. The new plan also includes broad goals to promote R&D. We've included new goals to increase annual private and federally sponsored research by $1 billion by 2030, and to increase our production of research doctorates to 7,500 a year, which is an important metric for our strength of our university research programs. In our baseline year of 2020, the first measured focus on research expenditures, we were at $3.5 billion, with a goal of increasing that by $1 billion by 2030. That puts our goal at $4.5 billion in private and federal research expenditures. As of 2022, we are at $3.8 billion. For our research doctoral graduate goals of 7,500 students, for our baseline year of 2020, we had 5,458 graduates. In 2023, we had 6,239 graduates. By investing in hands-on learning environments, incubators, marker spaces, software development, labs, and strategic partnerships, all across all types of institutions, students can generate knowledge through applied research that will drive innovations in economic development. Next slide, please. The agency is focused on operationalizing the new plan and making sure the organization of our agency and major programs align with our goals. If you'd like to check out Building a Talent-Strong Texas in more detail online, you can scan the QR code here. Realizing these goals, making sure Texans have the skills and credentials they need for good jobs and prosperous careers, better managing student loan debt, and bolstering our institution's capabilities in research and development for the long term all require significant investments in our higher education institutions and commitments from Texas policymakers. Additionally, the coordinating board released our new data website, Texas Data Bridge, databridge.highered.texas.gov, which is the primary source for data, statistics, and information on higher education in our state. Many resources are accessible on this site, including data dashboards that capture baseline information at a more granular level. Next slide, please. This is an exciting time for the coordinating board and for our state, and I am really thrilled to be here and visit this campus and address you, Regents, and thank you again for your service. But before I conclude, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you, as well as Chancellor McCall, and for your collective efforts in expanding access to higher education and fostering a culture of excellence at Texas State University System. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for this opportunity.
Regents, is there any questions or comments?
Yes, Regent Amato.
We were talking last night at dinner, the biggest challenges we have in corporate America today is cybersecurity and now artificial intelligence. You can't pick up a paper or watch TV without hearing about artificial intelligence. And I had no idea that my alma mater was, Sam Houston State was doing a cybersecurity program. When, next year? But, you know, that's a big issue for us. My company, we are a financial service firm and we insure many large financial institutions, and we get hit about 10,000 times a day, my people tell me. And fortunately, they haven't penetrated yet. But that's a big challenge for us, and recruiting those students are going to be our challenge going forward.
You know, that's a great point. The coordinating board is, as most of you know, the function is obviously providing high-quality education, overseeing the public universities in the state of Texas, the 50 community colleges, and the 8 technical colleges systems as well. But the big portion is providing opportunities and programs for universities in these areas. So we have had programs, and we're forward-thinking. We're looking, you're right, Regent Amato, about the future. Artificial intelligence, AI, is huge. It's happening now. It's only going to, I'm in healthcare myself. It's huge in healthcare, and the future of that technology is only going to intensify. And so we as higher education advocates and work have to look at those opportunities for future growth, for students to study, to be able to provide that for businesses, as you say, and the economy. And I know universities in this system have already proposed programs and have programs, and that is a big part of higher education right now, preparing for that.
Yeah, we, the other day, University of Texas San Antonio was kind enough to invite me for a luncheon with Monterey Tech. Monterey Tech, their whole board came up, and their president and all their senior staff, and they're wanting to form a partnership, and I think they're meeting with University of Texas today with the U.S. universities regarding cybersecurity and everything else. And I'm opening a big operations center in Monterey, Mexico. I'm going to have 450 people that we're going to eventually have, and I'm hiring as much. The reason I'm in Monterey, there are 5 universities there, but the major university we want to recruit from is Monterey Tech.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, collaboration is very key within universities, and obviously our proximity to Mexico and those opportunities are very important. But as you know, the governor has this tri-agency along with the coordinating board, higher education, TEA, as well as the Workforce Commission. And so we're very active, and Commissioner Keller and I go to meetings all over the state with economic development folks that really have to tell us what's the future, what are the needs, exactly as Regent Amato, you're mentioning, what are the needs, and what bodies like this and presidents of universities bring to this board to be able to see what the frontier is in the future about providing quality, necessary, needed programs. And that's part of our board, one of the big functions of the board. The other, of course, is getting the formula funding for the university systems prepared for the Legislative Budget Board, for the legislature to approve, is another big area that most of the population of the Texans don't know. But there's a lot of work that goes into it. But yes, that is, we act on things that are coming from the systems, from the universities, and that's why the workforce and the work that you're doing in your company, Regent Amato, and all industries are very pertinent that come for us for review, because we want to approve high-quality programs and things that are going to lead to good-paying jobs and provide for the economy of our great state of Texas.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Dr. Farias, thank you, one, for your leadership, and thank you for sharing this strategic plan with us today. But, you know, how are you working with not only our system, but other systems in the state to make sure that our strategic plans are aligned with the overall strategic plan?
That's a great question. Is obviously the coordinating board, just like the word says, in 1965, Governor Connolly created the coordinating board, and it's supposed to coordinate, right, all the systems. And it seems like over the years, I've been on the board since 2015 and the chair since 2021, and there needs to be more collaboration. But there's a group of, and Chancellor McCall is a member, obviously, of the chancellors and presidents of universities, and that's a good point. We need to collaborate and we need to work together for the betterment of the state. So the programs, and for many years I chaired the Academic and Workforce Success Committee on the coordinating board. And so the big portion of the big plan and the mission is for us to have access for higher education in our state of Texas, affordability, and lack of duplication, because we're responsible to oversee taxpayer funds, right, and programs. And so that's a good point. I mean, you do the business of your systems, and we just kind of oversee that, so we don't go into the business of your particular systems, but we like to see collaboration and systems work together, like the example that Regent Amato just brought up, and because there's so many people in the state and the country that are watching what Texas does. This past year, our coordinating board got the SHIO Award, which is a group of all the higher eds in the whole country for the first time. Last year, we won the national award for the best statewide organization, which we're very proud of, because that's the work that you are doing as regents, as systems that work together to get things done. It's a challenge, Regent Lee. You're exactly right. We have to deal, as Chancellor McCall knows, you know, people wanting to put in new med schools, new vet schools, and law schools, and legislators calling us up all the time about their areas and all. So it's a challenge, but we do the work for the right reasons, and that is to provide quality higher education in our state. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, thank you, Chancellor McCall. Thank you, Chairman Tinsley, and the Board of Regents. Thank you for allowing me to present the strategic plan for the state of Texas in higher education.
Thank you, Dr. Farias, for coming today. Thank you for your leadership on the board. And especially thank you for also coming this morning and touring this campus and seeing some of the programs that we have going. You've been to our medical school and you've gone beyond the call of duty to make sure you understand how our system works, and we're grateful.
Well, keep up the great work, and anything we can do to help you, please let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Just as a follow-up, some of the statistics that we talked about statewide, Dr. John Hick told me earlier this week that since the beginning of our system, we have 588,000 completions or degrees awarded, degrees, certificates awarded. Over half of those have been since 2010. And if you look at debt in our system, half of our students graduate with no debt, and those that do, the average debt is about $21,000. And so congratulations to the board and the presidents for a job well done. We're doing things the way the coordinating board sees that, suggests it should be done, and we're getting good results.
As we get started with regular business, I would like to remind the board that once a motion is made on an agenda item and the call for the second is requested, please raise your hand and wait for me to recognize you for the proper recording in the minutes. Also a reminder that we are live streaming this meeting and to please silence your phones and devices. Our first item of business is the approval of the meeting minutes held on February 22nd and 23rd of this year. Regents, are there any additions or corrections to the February meeting minutes? If there are none, I move that the minutes of the quarterly Board of Regents meeting held February 22nd and 23rd be approved. Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Amato. Any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. The next order of business is the approval of future board meeting dates for 2025. This item can be found in the general motion section of the board book. Regents, I move to adopt the proposed board meeting dates. Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Faskey. Any discussion? Is there any objection to this motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now hear reports and motions from the committees. The committees met prior to the board meeting to go over proposed agenda items in detail. All items under consideration were voted on by the committees before coming to the full board. I will call on the chairs of the committees to present the reports and make motions to the full board. We'll start with the Academic and Health Affairs Committee. Regent Gordy.
Before discussing the agenda items from the Academic and Health Affairs Committee meeting, I'd like to invite Dr. John Hike, our Vice Chancellor for Academic and Health Affairs, to the podium for a brief update on the degrees and certificates awarded by our system over the past year.
Thank you, Regent Gordy. And good afternoon. First, I'd like to congratulate all of our institutions on many successful commencement ceremonies this past week. I know it's a very exciting week, but also very exhausting, so congratulations. I know that there are thousands of happy graduates and families and friends out there, so greatly appreciate that. And actually a special congratulations to our chief academic officers and their teams and the faculty and staff that do the heavy lifting to help our students succeed, so greatly appreciate that as well. This slide here really represents the fruit of our labor. It's a slide that represents the 22,000 plus degrees and certificates that our institutions awarded this past year, and aligns very nicely with the state's Talent Strong Texas plan. So of those 22,000 plus degrees this past year, about 52% were to low-income students. About a third of those degrees were actually online degrees, which we lead the state in. About a little over 10% were in areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. About 1 of 5 of those degrees were to adult learners. We define adult learners as those students that are 25 or older. And as the Chancellor mentioned, over half of our graduates graduate with no debt whatsoever. And as you might expect, our system was founded as a system of teachers' colleges, and so that's something that we still do very, very well. Of the 22,000 degrees, about 3,200, a little over, were teaching degrees and or educational administration degrees. And you can see as well, we produced over 700 teachers this past year. Next slide. This slide shows a breakdown of the top majors of our graduates. You can see here about 10% of our degrees and certificates were at the certificate or associate degree level. About 60% of our degrees were bachelor's degrees, and another about 25% were master's degrees. You can see also some common themes across those categories of degrees and certificates. About 50% of all of our degrees produced on an annual basis are in 4 categories. Education being one, at about 15% of all of our degrees. Business, about 14%. Health at 10%, and criminal justice related degrees at about 8%. Next slide. And here you can see just an example of our graduates being hired by top companies and organizations around the state and around the country and around the world. As you might expect in terms of our top degrees, there's a heavy concentration on this slide of technology, health, ISDs or education, energy, government, and financial services. But not only are these great companies, but our students are getting very well paid for their degrees as well. Just to give you just a small example across our institutions. At Lamar, for instance, average first-year salary for chemical engineers, $82,000. Nurses, $80,000. Industrial tech graduates, $87,000. Just moving quickly down the line. Sam Houston, nursing, $83,000 for first-year salaries. Construction tech, $70,000. LIT, electric and power, $70,000 first-year salary. Fire, $67,000. Port Arthur, nursing, $84,000. Health diagnostic, $50,000. I'm going to get a little bit from each one here, so almost done. But Orange, nursing, $72,000 first-year salaries. Mechanical tech, $66,000. Sul Ross, teaching, $55,000 first-year salaries. Texas State, nursing, $76,000. Construction engineering tech, $76,000. Electrical engineering, $81,000. So, not only are institutions providing talent to great companies, but also those folks are demanding very high salaries as well. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Hayek, for the update, and congratulations to all our students and institutions for this great work. Now for the committee report. The Academic and Health Affairs Committee met telephonically on Monday, May 6, 2024, and was chaired by me with committee member Regent Lee in attendance, as well as representatives from our institutions and system staff. All actions and consent items were reviewed, discussed, and approved by the committee to be moved to the full board. The first three items for consideration are from Sam Houston State University. Chair Tinsley, I move that Sam Houston State University be authorized to offer the following degrees effective spring 2025. The Embedded Associate of Arts in Homeland Security Studies, the Embedded Associates of Art in Criminal Justice and Criminology, and the Embedded Associate of Arts in General Business. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Regent Long seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
The next five items for consideration are from Sul Ross State University. Chair Tinsley, I move that Sul Ross State University be authorized to offer the following degrees effective fall 2024. The Embedded Associate of Science in Biology, the Embedded Associates of Science in Business Administration, the Embedded Associates of Science in Criminal Justice, the Embedded Associates of Science in Homeland Security, and the Embedded Associate of Science in Kinesiology. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Regent Flores seconded the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, before voting on the next item, I would like to invite President Hernandez to provide brief remarks.
Thank you, Regent Gordy. We have submitted a board motion requesting a conferral of an honorary degree on a longtime supporter of the university and the Center for Big Bend Studies. Mr. Fort has been a very good friend to the university as well as the Center for Big Bend Studies for over 20 years. He has granted unlimited access to his property in the region, principally Pinto Canyon Ranch, which I had the fortune of recently touring. And it's just a magnificent property that spans over 45,000 acres and has multiple archaeological sites that are being worked on by our archaeology and anthropology faculty on campus. It is home to the Spirit Cave, which was featured in the New Yorker magazine article, The Bodies in the Cave. We've talked about this in previous meetings. It's a very nicely written article that's based on the research that's being conducted in that area about the origins of indigenous people in that region. And I got to tour that cave. It's just fascinating what you see there. Finally, he has personally donated over $2 million and facilitated in excess of $5.6 million of support to the Center for Big Bend Studies from other sources. Given that, we respectfully request your approval to confer upon him an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, President Hernandez. Chair Tinsley, I move that Sul Ross State University be authorized to confer the degree Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa upon Mr. John F. Fort III. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Austin. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
The next item for consideration is from Texas State University. Chair Tinsley, I move that Texas State University be authorized to offer a new Master's of Public Health degree with a major in Public Health effective fall of 2024. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Regent Amato. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Chair Tinsley, I move that Lamar Institute of Technology be authorized to offer a new Associate of Applied Science degree in Utility Line and Management Technology effective spring 2025. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Second. Regent Foskey, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next item for consideration are from Lamar State College Orange. Chair Tinsley, I move that Lamar State College Orange be authorized to offer the following certificates and degrees effective fall 2024. The Basic Plumbing Technology Apprentice Certificate of Completion, the Intermediate Plumbing Technology Tradesman Certificate of Completion, and the Plumbing Technology Journeyman Associate of Applied Arts and Science degree. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Regent Amato. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
The final item for information only is the Spring 2024 Certified Enrollment Report for the Texas State University System components. Any remaining items are included in the consent agenda unless someone wishes to remove an item from consent. This concludes the committee's report to the board.
Thank you, Regent Gordy. With that, we'll pass over to the Finance and Audit Committee. Regent Lee.
Thank you, Chair Tinsley. Before discussing the agenda items for the Finance and Audit Committee meeting, I would like to invite Mr. Daniel Harper, Vice Chancellor and Chief Financial Officer, to the podium to present a financial update.
Thank you, sir. To begin with, we'll cover insurance. So the various lines we bind at the system level. We do property, auto, crime, directors, officers, foreign travel. We look at cyber routinely, and occasionally the market's there for us to insure externally, and then some limited general liability, and then student health. We recently bound our property program, and y'all will recall at the last meeting, the board approved delegating authority to the chancellor to do so. So our total insured values across the system is $5.8 billion, so that's up 10% from last year. The market is moving a little bit more favorable, so our rate is down 6% from last year, and when you combine those, we ended up with a premium just right at $10 million. We do, have some, as they say, skin in the game, if you will. So we have a 15% quota share. So we're on, we're responsible for 15 cents of every dollar of any claim. And then we also have a deductible structure that lays kind of on the bottom. We've talked about it in previous meetings. We do have a higher loss ratio than the market likes. So last year we were just north of 100% for a loss ratio. We had a clean year this year on our property program, so that brought our loss ratio down to 76%. You know, the market tells me they'd like to be somewhere around a 70% loss ratio, so we're moving in the right direction. We'll see how this policy year goes. It's not been as ideal as we wanted to start the year off, but we're moving in that direction. And this provides some longitudinal trends. So you can see, I mean, we have a steady clip year over year of increased market value. So that's both the value of the existing assets we had plus any new acquisitions. So the $1.7 billion worth of active construction plus the purchase of new facilities we put on. And then on the right side is just the rate, and you can see we're right there at the 17 cents per 100. Yeah, and so on auto, a few years ago, we moved to a high retention auto program for the system. So prior to that, we had something that looked much more like someone's personal auto insurance. So now we have where the institutions have a deductible, then the system has a deductible above that. So for physical damages, that's $25,000. And for liability, that's $75,000. And then we do have, for a catastrophic, then we purchase insurance above that. So we have a $2.5 million ag limit on physical damage and 1.6 on liability. And then we do have some buffering that we've built in by doing a maximum annual deductible payout. And you can see on this slide some of the successes from it. So if we were to do a low retention policy, we'd probably be pushing $650 million worth of, or $650,000 worth of premium. And you know, last year we netted $172,000 of savings. And so you can see, you know, in the 5 years we've done this system-wide at the institutional level, we've probably saved over $1 million in auto. So, you know, we view this as kind of a success and a trial run, and we continue to look for other lines to see ways that we can keep some of that exposure here versus, you know, paying for it externally.
Mr. Harper?
Yes, sir.
And those savings are pooled, is that correct?
So, yes, sir. So we keep a portion of it at the system level, and at the request of former CFO of Sam Houston, we put some of the savings back at the institutional level. So he's far easier to work with as president than he was as CFO. So yeah, so we share that savings there. And then this is just a graphical illustration of that previous chart. So you can see you know, where our costs are associated with year over year. So this has been a successful pilot.
Carlos, that can go both ways.
And so on our debt profile, you know, again, at the last meeting, the board did approve us to issue debt for the next 365 days. So our current debt profile for long debt, so fixed out, is $825 million. And then we do have on our extendable commercial paper program right south of $200 million, $186 million. And the current rate on our ECP program is 4.1%. So y'all that are in that market know that short-term rates are, you know, as high as long-term rates. And next week, the chancellor, myself, and our controller at the system office will be pricing a new bond issuance, so the Series 2024. It'll be pushing $625 million, and you can see this is a long list of the projects that will be included. Some of these projects that are at Sam Houston are currently on commercial paper, so we'll defease a portion of the commercial paper. And then the CCAP column that's state debt, so the state of Texas will be covering the principal and the interest on that slide. And we do anticipate having a series probably in 18 months, so another bond issuance that'll push another $600 million. Again, this will finish out some of the state projects that came from the TRB CCAP bill, along with some other institutional projects, the largest ones of which are associated with Texas State's move to 12,000 student beds. And just kind of a pro forma, so you'll show, I mean, as we talked about, we're right around $1 billion right now, and we'll be looking to move to $1.8 billion total debt. What I'll note, and the chancellor spoke to this previously, currently we pay down around $70 million of debt a year for principal. And with this new 2024 issue, they anticipate our principal payment will be $100 million. So it's still an aggressive pay down schedule that we still use. And another graphical illustration to show the debt, but then also to show our plans to aggressively pay down the Series 24 and the Series 26. And then two kind of more sections. This is just, these are at the request of Regent Bill Scott, who's not with us today. But just shows you kind of where the cash position is for the institutions, operating short, operating long. So as of February 29th, their operating funds are pushing, just north of $800 million. And then on Treasury, you'll see the red line is the endowment pool, and we've included our returns, and so you see we've kind of normalized with endowment around 9% a year, and the board will recall, I guess 5 years ago, we moved from a decentralized model where every institution managed those, and we now do it at a pooled system level. And then you'll see the blue line is the operating long funds, and I'll just note the drop that you see in that blue line associated with Texas State. They had $100 million of operating funds that they had in their long, but given the rate market, they've moved it back into short, and we're able to put it in a money market and actually beat that return just a slight bit. So it was a good strategy move on their end. And financial indicators, this goes to the composite financial index that we've looked at for the past few years. Kind of just shows you overall the months of coverage that an institution has. So this is the access to funds in order to cover operating costs. So ranges from 2.5 months to 13 months at Lamar State College Orange. And this is a graphical representation of that. The goal is to be north of the 3, which is the middle. And so you can see since 2015 kind of how system-wide we've moved. So it shows from an external perspective kind of where our institutional financial health is. So it's a good indication. And then the next slide breaks down current year by institution, starting with Lamar down to our composite score. So you'll see, with Sol Ross and Sam Houston are farther to the left, and then you have institutions like Port Arthur and Orange who are farther to the right. And what that kind of shows you is where they are in their strategy. So for Sam Houston specifically, with bringing on the College of Medicine, there were startup costs associated with that. Those will, kind of be mature, and so you'll see that pressure is taken off of Sam Houston. And then Sam Houston, with their past growth, has brought on debt. And so that then factors in, on the opposite side, as you have, and it was seen in that previous slide, Orange has a large cash position that helps their numbers very favorably. And then the last slide I include is just the support foundations that are associated with our institutions. In the consent agenda, we are asking to update the bylaws for a few of them, so I thought it'd be good just to provide the board with that information. So just north of $300 million of assets held on behalf of the institutions through their support foundations. And that concludes my presentation.
Great information, Daniel. Regents, any questions for Daniel? All right. Now for the committee report, the Finance and Audit Committee met telephonically on May the 7th, 2024 to discuss finance and audit items included in today's agenda. I chaired the meeting, and fellow committee members Regents Austin, Long, and Scott were present. We were all also joined by Regent Flores and Student Regent Elgert. The Finance and Audit Committee considered all items, and the committee agreed to move each item to today's meeting for the board's consideration. The first item for consideration is from Sam Houston State, exemption from Law Enforcement Management Institute of Texas students. Chairman Tinsley, I move that Sam Houston State University be authorized to provide an exemption from designated tuition, mandatory fees, and online fees for students solely co-enrolled in Lemit's Leadership Command College.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Regent Gordy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Chair Tinsley, the next item for consideration is Texas State establish cost for students participating in the Alternative Teacher Certificate Program. Chairman Tinsley, I move that Texas State University be authorized to set designated tuition to $2,900 for a block of 15 semester credit hours and to waive the mandatory fees for student participating in the Alternative Teacher Certification Program.
Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Flores. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes.
The next item is also from Texas State, Shuttle Service Operations and Maintenance. Chairman Tinsley, I move that a contract for operations and maintenance for fixed route bus service commencing on August the 23rd, 2024, with TransDev Services be approved in an amount not to exceed $110 million over the life of the contract.
Do I hear a second? Regent Amato, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes.
Chairman, the next items on the agenda are informational items only and include mid-year operating budget adjustments for fiscal year 2024 and also status of implementation of audit and compliance recommendations. The remaining items that are also included are in the consent agenda, and if there are no questions for the regents, I will just submit them for consideration.
Thank you, Regent Lee. With that, we'll go to Planning and Construction Committee, Regent Austin.
Thank you, Chairman Tinsley. The Planning and Construction Committee met on May 7th, 2024, to discuss the planning and construction agenda. Regent Scott chaired the meeting, and Regents Gordy, Flores, and I were in attendance. The committee considered all items and agreed to move each item to today's meeting for the board's consideration. The first item for consideration is Lamar University design development documents for the Mary and John Gray Library renovation. We have a short video prepared to highlight this project. Dr. Taylor, provide a comment.
Yes. Chairman Tinsley, Regents, and Chancellor McCall, 50 years ago, construction of the Mary and John Gray Library transformed Lamar University's campus. Today, we're excited about its proposed renovation. Lamar University's vision is for the library to become the heart and soul of academic life for both our students and our faculty. I'd like to provide a few highlights of the proposed renovation. We are relocating both the Student Success Center and the Advising Center to the library. This strategic move will allow for coordination between initiatives and enhance student accessibility to a large range of academic services, including advising, tutoring, dedicated study and collaboration spaces, and library research support, and more. This relocation was made possible by the efforts of our librarians to convert a substantial number of journal subscriptions to electronic formats. This effort not only freed up space, but will enhance our journal collections and make them more accessible to our working students. The library's computing lab will also undergo a comprehensive overhaul, incorporating state-of-the-art technologies tailored to meeting the diverse needs of students from various majors. The library renovation also includes an 8th floor event space with panoramic views that will serve as a premier venue for campus gatherings and events. Finally, we are proposing a dramatic change to the exterior of the building. At 8 stories tall, the library is the first thing visitors see when approaching the campus. The new exterior will provide a stunning view. The additional windows on the east, north, and south sides of the library will infuse the interior spaces with natural light. As they contribute to the aesthetic beauty of the library structure, they will also create a more inviting and inspiring learning environment for students and faculty alike. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the planning teams that provided input to this project and the support of Texas State University staff who provided guidance and encouragement along the way. During the design phase, we were committed to optimizing every square foot of the library space and ensuring the renovated library realizes its full potential. We appreciate your support as we transform the Mary and John Gray Library into our campus hub for learning, as well as a centerpiece of our campus and of the Beaumont Southeast Texas community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Chairman Tinsley.
As a graduate of Lamar in 1989, Dr. Taylor, I just want to say, to me, this is going to be an incredible renovation and become kind of the focal point of the university. And, you know, I think back to when I graduated, how much transformation has actually taken place on campus and how much more beautiful that campus is today. And I'm thrilled with your leadership and what's taking place, and I can't wait to see this finished. And not only is it going to be a congregation point for people within the university and this system, but it's also going to be a community focal point, and it's going to be utilized in that fashion. You've already utilized that building in that fashion in so many ways, and I applaud you for your efforts. It's critically important to our community, and it just continues to enhance the reputation of our university in Beaumont, so thank you. You bet.
Thank you for the comments, Regent Lee. Chairman Tinsley, I move that the design development documents for the Mary and John Gray Library at Lamar University be approved.
Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Amato. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, Chairman. The next item for consideration is Lamar State College, Port Arthur. Design development documents for the Madison Monroe Educational Building renovation. We also have a short video.
Thank you, Regent Austin. The renovation of the Monroe Education Building is not on the master plan, but arose out of an immediate need to upgrade an aging infrastructure and out-of-date instructional spaces within the building. The Monroe Building, as you can see, is 55 years old. It houses both academic and administrative spaces. It is a very busy building. Each semester, at least 75 classes are scheduled within that building. We certainly knew that the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems in the building were aging. We subsequently learned that the cooling system was failing, the electrical system was inadequate, and asbestos throughout the building had to be remediated. Because the building problems were so pervasive, a full mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system demolition and replacement was warranted. In addition, the project will also include a new roofing system, window replacement, and interior renovation. We estimate that PDG Architects and O'Donnell Snyder Construction will spend approximately $16.6 million to complete the project. Once completed, the building will have functional spaces and an infrastructure that supports the mission of Lamar State College, Port Arthur. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Tinsley, I'd like to move, Chairman Tinsley, I move that the design development documents for the Madison Monroe Educational Building renovation at Lamar State College, Port Arthur be approved.
Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Flores. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Chairman. The next item for consideration is the Texas State University System Capital Improvements Program. Chairman Tinsley, I'd like to move that the Capital Improvements Program for the fiscal year 2025 through 2030 be approved.
Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Lee. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is an informational item, the quarterly planning and construction report. The remaining items are included in the consent agenda, the additions to the 24-29 capital improvements program. I'd just like to say on behalf of Regent Scott and myself and everyone on the committee, it's great to see the buildings and the renderings and the quality of the structures that we're building, and it says a lot about the university, and certainly something we can all be proud of. So thank you, and this concludes the Planning and Construction Committee's report.
Thank you, Regent Austin. With that, we'll move on to the Rules and Regulations Committee. Vice Chair Flores.
I think I got it on. Thank you. The Rules and Regulations Committee met by telephone on Wednesday, May 8, 2024, and discussed the items on the Rules and Regulations agenda. Okay. I chaired the meeting, which was also attended by committee members Regent Foskey and Regent Long, as well as Student Regent Elgar. The Chancellor and the representative of the system office and other component institutions were also present. The meeting was duly posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Law. The committee voted unanimously to recommend all agenda items be placed on the consent agenda. And unless any regent would like to move one of those rules to the meeting agenda, the committee recommends that they remain there as part of the consent agenda. If there's no questions, any questions? No. Okay. Chairman, I move that all be moved to the consent agenda. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the Rules and Regulations Committee.
Thank you, Regent Flores. With that, we'll turn it over to the Governmental Relations Committee. Regent Amato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Regents, Presidents, Chancellor. What an exciting
and busy few months we've had since I last presented to you. Since last February, we've received some election results, learned of a few runoff elections, met with our national leaders in Washington, D.C., received interim charges from both the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker of the House, honored a few of our elected officials, attended commencements, and helped prepare for a Senate hearing that had Chancellor McCall and Vice Chancellor and General Counsel Nelly Herrera testify at the Senate Higher Education Committee just this past Tuesday. Let me begin to elaborate on all of these items in order. First, with the primary and runoff update. As you may recall, in the Texas House, 16 incumbents decided not to seek re-election, along with 9 incumbents that were defeated outright on primary election night. An additional 9 incumbents advanced to a runoff. The date of that primary runoff election is fast approaching. Early voting begins next Monday, and the primary runoff date is May 28th. A couple of the high-profile races that we are watching include Speaker Dade Phelan's contest, Representative Gary Van Dever, who's the Article Appropriations Article 3 Subcommittee Chair, and Representative John Kemple, who is the House Higher Education Chair. Why is this important, you might be asking? Well, it illustrates how much work we will have in front of us, given the challenges we always face when experiencing this level of turnover and the ramifications it might have in shaping the political landscape in Texas as we approach the start of the next legislative session in January. With nearly 20% of newly elected members of the House, the loss of institutional knowledge and the loss of subject matter expertise, particularly in higher education funding and policy, cannot be understated. Throw in the fact that if we have incumbents who don't return that represented our institutions or that were alums of our institutions, this leaves some of our schools with additional challenges that come with low seniority and the less likely they will be on key committees that could impact the overall effectiveness of that member to help advance our legislative agenda. We don't often see this level of turnover mid-decade. Normally, this happens after redistricting that follows the end of a decade. Looking ahead, another focus of the GR team over the next several months will be interim charges and hearings. The Senate, I'll list just a few of these. They want to review and analyze the structures and governance in higher education, focusing on the role of faculty senates. They also want to investigate the opportunities and challenges of emerging technology on teaching and learning, focusing on artificial intelligence, online education, and digital resources. They also will continue to examine the implementation of Senate Bill 17, which bans discriminatory DEI initiatives at institutions of public higher education. They also want to monitor the implementation of Senate Bill 18, which was relating to the tenure and employment of faculty members at certain public institutions of higher education. They also want to review campus policies to prevent anti-Semitism. They will also monitor the implementation of the new community college funding model. And then lastly, the Senate will examine the procedures of Texas public institutions of higher education designed to protect the First Amendment free speech rights of faculty, staff, and students. These, the charges of campus free speech, combating anti-Semitism, and diversity, equity, inclusion is what brought the Chancellor and Vice Chancellor Nelly Herrera to testify at on Tuesday's hearing. They did a great job, represented the system very well, and we had furnished the committee with all of the progress that we've been making in the areas of compliance that we will continue to share with you. The House also has interim charges that they have put out. Some of them reflect similar subject matter to the Senate, and so I won't go back over those, but some of the ones that differ would be looking at the name, image, and likeness and seeing how Texas can stay competitive in the national landscape. They want to monitor Senate Bill 25, which was related to supporting nursing-related post-secondary education, including scholarships to nursing students, loan repayment assistance, and nursing faculty and grants to nursing education programs. They want to have strong school-to-work pipelines. They want to evaluate the alignment of post-secondary success initiatives across pre-K to grade 12 and higher education systems, as well as the tri-agency collaboration that you heard the chairman speak of earlier in his remarks. Now, I'd like to turn our attention to the federal update portion of this report. I'd like to focus my remarks on our successful annual Washington, D.C. fly-in with Chancellor McCall and our presidents. In mid-March, Chancellor McCall and I accompanied our presidents in Washington, D.C. for the fly-in. Of course, over the course of 2 days, we met with dozens of members of the House, as well as Senator John Cornyn. We also participated in meetings with senior officials in the Department of Defense Office of Naval Research at the Pentagon, the White House, the National Science Foundation, the Department of Transportation, and the Education Department. A particular highlight of the trip included a dinner honoring Appropriations Chair Kay Granger for her many years of public service and for being a friend of the Texas State University system. 3/4 of the Republicans in our congressional delegation RSVP'd to our dinner, and we presented Chairman Granger with a recognition for her service and a scholarship donation in her name to our 4 general academic institutions to support College of Education students working towards becoming teachers in Texas. The remainder of the federal stuff can be found in the report that I've passed out to you. You should be getting that soon if you haven't already gotten it. And so I'll let you read that at your leisure. In conclusion, or I'd like to conclude my remarks by highlighting some of the outreach efforts that I alluded to in my opening remarks. With appreciation for President Elisa White and her team at Sam Houston, I had the pleasure to witness the unveiling of the Brandon Creighton and Will Metcalf Teaching Theater at the College of Medicine in Conroe. These 2 men were very helpful in Sam Houston State getting approval of a medical school, but were also supportive of getting the medical students formula funding that will lessen the financial burden the students face while entering the medical profession. The Chancellor, Pierce, and I were honored to attend and celebrate this event along with the groundbreaking of the Health Professions Building in Conroe the very next week. Also, special thanks to President Jaime Taylor and his team at Lamar for hosting Congressman Brian Babin and his wife for commencement this past Friday. I was honored to travel with Regent Lee and with Regent Scott and the Chancellor to Beaumont to participate in commencement ceremonies and have lunch with the congressman and members of Lamar's leadership. Thank you. Congressman Babin did a fantastic job, and I believe left the campus with more pride in his alma mater than when he arrived. These celebrations really do help strengthen our relationships with our leaders and highlights the important work being done throughout the system. I look forward to more opportunities to engage with all of our institutions in the near future. Lastly, I'd like to thank President Bernard and her team for all of their work in hosting the congressional hearing and Texas House Select Committee on LNG this past month at the Carl Parker Center within a month of one another. Thank you for your hospitality and for representing the system so well in front of our elected officials. And thank you for those who've had our elected officials on campus the past several months. And I know that some of you plan on having some members of Congress out to your campus just in June. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Cunningham. Go ahead. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Since no action is required on this report, the board will now consider contracts, personnel, and miscellaneous items. The next order of business is the approval of contracts. All items in the contract section have been moved to the consent agenda. Are there any questions from the board? There being no questions or objections, the next order of business is the personnel section. We have an action item on the personnel agenda from Texas State University, which we will consider after we reconvene from executive session. The next item is the delegation of authority for the Chair of the Board of Regents to determine the compensation of the Chancellor during fiscal year 2025 and make necessary updates to the existing employment and deferred compensation contracts. Is there a motion? Motion by Regent Lee. Is there a second? Second by Regent Gordy. Any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. The next item is the delegation of authority for the Chair of the Finance and Audit Committee to determine the compensation for the Chief Audit Executive during fiscal year 2025. Is there a motion? Motion by Regent Flores. Is there a second? Second by Regent Amato. Any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? The motion passes unanimously. The remaining items in the personnel section can be found on the consent agenda. The next order of business is the miscellaneous section. The first item under this section is from Lamar University for authorization to name the track in the Ty-Terrell Track Complex the Dr. Sidney W. Sonny Jolly Track. At this time, I'll ask Dr. Taylor with Lamar University to comment on this motion.
Chairman Tinsley, Regents, and Chancellor McCall. Dr. Sonny Jolly coached at Lamar University from 1971 through 1991 and was a professor in the Department of Health and Kinesiology in 2004. Coach Jolly was responsible for rebuilding the Lamar University track and field program after the tragic death of Coach Ty Terrell and 5 student athletes in 1968. During the 11-year span starting in 1978, Coach Jolly's teams won 2 American South Conference championships in cross country and 20 Southland Conference championships in indoor, outdoor track, and cross country. So I'll just state that again, 22 conference championships in 11 years. These are the most conference championships won by a coach in the history of Lamar University. Coach Jolly was named the Southland Conference Track Coach of the Year 8 times and the American South Conference Cross Country Coach of the Year twice. Athletes coached by Jolly won multiple national championships in an impressive range of events, including the high jump, 400 meter, 5,000 meter, 10,000 meter, 100 meter high hurdles, 400 meter intermediate hurdles, and the mile relay and a marathon. While many coaches excel in preparing student athletes for success in one or more events, Coach Jolly excelled in both track and field events and in both sprints and long distance events, reflecting the true skill as a coach for all members of the Lamar University track and field team. I sincerely appreciate the Texas State University System Regents' consideration of this potential naming and associated recognition of the exceptional career of Coach Sonny Jolly at Lamar University. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Regents, any questions or comments?
Dr. Taylor, I begrudgingly support this motion because I tried desperately to get on that track team. He didn't want anything to do with me. He said, there's a football field way over there.
Then I move that Lamar University be authorized to name the track in the Ty-Terrell Track Complex the Dr. Sidney W. Sonny Jolly Track. Do I hear a second? Second by Regent Amato. Any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. The other action item in the miscellaneous section has been moved to Friday's agenda, and the remaining items in the miscellaneous section can be found in the consent agenda. Before we recess to executive session, I would like to share with the group that this evening's reception and dinner begins at 6:00 p.m. at the 11th floor of the J.C. Kellum Building. Transportation will depart from the hotel at 5:45 p.m. The board will now recess to executive session in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071 through 551.074 of the Government Code. No votes will be taken in the executive session. For the record, the time is 1:51 p.m.
taken all that out of the forecast, so if you want to drive back.
But they took it out of the forecast?
Yeah. Apparently we missed it, so if you want to drive back, so you put your bags in the morning. Whatever you want to do.
Okay. We will now reconvene in open session. The time is 4:00 p.m. For the record, in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, no votes were taken or decisions reached in executive session. Our next order of business is a personnel item from Texas State University regarding recommendation that Dr. Melissa Bacchus be terminated for cause and her tenure be revoked. Vice Chair Flores, do you have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that tenure of Dr. Melissa Bacchus be revoked and that her employment with the Texas State University be terminated effective immediately.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Flores. Is there a second? Second by Regent Gordy. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. If there is no further business and without objection, we will stand in recess for the day and reconvene in open session tomorrow morning at 10:00 a.m. The time is 4:01 p.m.